Narcissists don't want you to know they're miserable without you, so they disappear. Have you ever experienced the perplexing behavior of a narcissist who seems to come and go in your life with no clear explanation? One minute, they're the center of your universe, showering you with affection, attention, and promises of undying devotion. The next minute, they vanish. No texts, no calls, no trace of the person you thought you were building something with. At first, you might think they've moved on, or perhaps they're just too busy with their own lives. But what if I told you that the truth is far more complex and much darker than you realize? It turns out narcissists don't want you to know that they're miserable without you. They won't admit that their emotional world crumbles when they don't have someone to control, validate, or feed their insatiable ego. Instead of showing their vulnerability, they disappear into thin air, leaving you confused, hurt, and wondering what went wrong. But why do they do this? Why don't they just tell you how they feel? And what does it mean for you when a narcissist exits your life without warning? If you've ever been ghosted or discarded by a narcissist, you may have felt a range of emotions: anger, sadness, and perhaps even guilt. But what if the narcissist's sudden disappearance isn't a reflection of you? It's a reflection of them. Today, we're going to unpack this perplexing behavior and why, at their core, narcissists are just as miserable, if not more so, than the people they manipulate and discard. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll understand the psychological mechanisms at play when narcissists disappear, and how to protect yourself from falling into their emotional traps. You may even gain insight into why, despite their cruel behavior, they may secretly feel empty and hollow without you. Hello, everyone. Before we dive deeper into today's discussion, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with anyone you think might benefit from learning about the fascinating and often painful world of narcissism. If you've ever found yourself wondering why a narcissist seems to come and go at will, or why they vanish without a trace after building up your trust, you're not alone, and you're in the right place. So, why do narcissists disappear when you're most invested in the relationship? Why, when you've opened yourself up, given them your time and energy, and believed that you were building something real, do they suddenly pull away, ghost you, or leave you hanging without any explanation? On the surface, their behavior may appear to be an act of indifference, or worse, outright cruelty. It can feel like they just don't care, or that they've lost interest in you. However, in reality, this pattern is not born out of malice or disregard. It's actually a defensive mechanism that's deeply rooted in their emotional insecurity and an overwhelming fear of vulnerability. While narcissists may seem confident, self-assured, and in control on the outside, the truth is they are fragile individuals who cannot afford to show weakness. Narcissists are terrified of being seen as needy, weak, or emotionally dependent. The very idea of allowing someone to see them in such a light challenges the carefully constructed image of themselves they've worked so hard to maintain. They rely on their persona of strength and independence as a shield, using it to protect themselves from the painful possibility of being exposed for who they really are, a person who is often empty inside, constantly seeking approval and validation from others. The very thought of allowing someone to witness their vulnerabilities is unbearable to them. This fear runs so deep that even a hint of emotional closeness or reliance can trigger an intense need to retreat. The truth is, narcissists crave admiration, validation, and constant reassurance that they are superior to others. They thrive on being the center of attention, basking in the praise and admiration of those around them. However, beneath this constant need for external validation lies an intense fear of being exposed. When they allow themselves to become emotionally connected to someone, They open themselves up to the possibility of being hurt, rejected, or criticized. This fear is compounded by the fact that they often view emotional dependence on another person as a sign of weakness. To maintain their inflated sense of self, they must appear self-sufficient and emotionally invulnerable at all costs. The moment they feel that they've become too emotionally invested or reliant on someone else, their natural instinct is to distance themselves and disappear, thereby protecting their fragile sense of self from being shattered. This fear of emotional exposure and vulnerability is precisely why narcissists often resort to ghosting or disappearing when the relationship starts to feel real or too intense. When they sense that they are beginning to rely on someone emotionally, they panic. They can't handle the thought of needing someone, because doing so would mean that they're not the perfect, invulnerable person they present to the world. And so, rather than facing their fear of emotional exposure and letting down their walls, they choose the easier route, disappearing. This disappearance serves as a defense mechanism that allows them to maintain their image of self-sufficiency and control, while simultaneously avoiding the emotional discomfort of intimacy. By pulling away, they may also be subconsciously testing the relationship, trying to gauge how much you care, or whether you'll chase after them. In doing so, they can reassure themselves that they still hold power over you, even if it means putting you through emotional distress. But at the core of this behavior is the narcissist's inability to cope with vulnerability. They might convince themselves that they're just taking a break, or that they need space, but the real reason for their sudden disappearance is their deep internal fear of being seen for who they truly are, fragile, dependent, and ultimately in need of someone else. When a narcissist feels emotionally vulnerable, whether because they've become attached to you or you've seen through their false front, they pull back. They won't let you see their weaknesses, and certainly won't let you see how much they need you. Instead, they vanish. It's not because they don't care about you. It's because, deep down, they can't let themselves be seen as anything less than perfect and in control. To them, disappearing is their only way of maintaining that illusion. You might be wondering, but why leave me hanging? Why not just be honest and say, I need space, or I'm struggling emotionally? The simple answer is, narcissists don't know how to be vulnerable. Vulnerability equals weakness in their minds, and showing weakness opens them up to the possibility of rejection, criticism, and worst of all, loss of control. They would rather disappear into thin air than face the prospect of being emotionally open with you, even if it means hurting you in the process. Let's take a closer look at how this works. Narcissists tend to see relationships as transactional. In the early stages of a relationship, they will likely shower you with attention and affection, just enough to make you feel valued, adored, and essential to their happiness. This phase is often referred to as love bombing. During this time, they create an emotional dependency by making you feel special, as though you're the only one who truly understands them. However, as time passes, the narcissist begins to see you as a source of validation, rather than an equal partner. Their need for admiration and control becomes more pronounced, and they start to test your limits. They might become more demanding, more critical, or emotionally distant, expecting you to cater to their needs without giving anything in return. When you don't meet their unspoken expectations, or when you start to push back against their behavior, they may suddenly retreat. This retreat isn't about you. It's about their inability to deal with their emotions. The narcissist feels empty inside without constant validation, but they can't admit it. So, they disappear. It's easier for them to withdraw than to face the discomfort of being emotionally exposed. It's a classic example of how a narcissist's fear of vulnerability can manifest in a way that leaves the people they care about, if they are capable of care, hurt, and confused. The narcissist's disappearing act also serves as a form of control. By disappearing, they force you to chase them, to wonder where they went, and to feel a sense of panic or anxiety. This keeps you emotionally invested, even when they're not around. It's a form of manipulation that gives them the upper hand in the relationship. You'll start to question your worth, wondering if you said or did something wrong. Meanwhile, the narcissist remains distant, enjoying the power that comes from knowing you'll eventually come crawling back. But why is it that they feel miserable when they disappear? The truth is that narcissists don't have the ability to form authentic emotional connections. They need the validation of others to feel complete, but they can't tolerate the idea of being vulnerable enough to accept help or love in return. When they disappear, they are essentially cutting themselves off from the very thing they need most, emotional connection. Ironically, by disappearing, they end up in a cycle of loneliness and despair, all the while convincing themselves that they're in control. They may even try to replace you with someone new, someone who can provide the same validation and admiration you once did. But this is often short-lived. Narcissists are notorious for jumping from one relationship to the next, trying to fill the emptiness inside them, only to end up dissatisfied and looking for their next source of narcissistic supply. The cycle continues, and with each relationship, the narcissist becomes more disconnected from their true emotions and more desperate for the admiration they once had. Now you might be thinking, how do I protect myself from this kind of behavior? The answer lies in recognizing the patterns and understanding that the narcissist's behavior is not your fault. They may make you feel like you're the cause of their disappearance, or like you're the reason they're unhappy. But in reality, their misery comes from within. It's their inability to form healthy, authentic relationships that leads to their internal emptiness. And while it's natural to feel hurt and confused by their actions, you have to remember that their disappearance is a reflection of their emotional fragility, not your worth. Thank you for watching this video and taking the time to understand the complicated world of narcissism. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into relationships, psychology, and personal growth. Remember, narcissists disappear not because of you, but because they can't handle their own vulnerabilities. And while it's hard to accept, their disappearing act is often just as painful for them as it is for you. Take care, and remember, you deserve a relationship built on trust, mutual respect, and emotional honesty. Demonic mind games narcissists use to manipulate you. Have you ever been in a relationship with someone who made you feel like you were constantly walking on eggshells? Someone who could turn a simple disagreement into an all-out emotional battlefield, leaving you questioning your sanity. You may have wondered, am I imagining things? Is it me, or is this person just playing mind games with me? If this sounds familiar, then you're not alone. Narcissists are masters of psychological manipulation, and they play mind games that are so subtle and so expertly crafted that they leave you feeling confused, anxious, and often questioning your reality. The worst part is that these mind games are designed to make you doubt your own thoughts and feelings, allowing the narcissist to gain control over you without you even realizing it. These manipulative tactics can be so cunning and deceptive that they can feel almost demonic in nature. Narcissists thrive on causing emotional chaos, and they do so by employing a variety of mind games that leave you emotionally drained, mentally exhausted, and completely dependent on them for validation. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the twisted strategies narcissists use to manipulate you. Whether it's through gaslighting, love bombing, or playing on your insecurities, These techniques are designed to strip you of your sense of self and leave you emotionally vulnerable. What makes narcissists so dangerous isn't just their ego or their need for admiration. It's their ability to control and manipulate others with surgical precision. And the scariest part, they make you think it's your fault. But by understanding the demonic mind games they play, you can start to recognize them for what they are and protect yourself from their toxic influence. So, if you've ever felt emotionally trapped or manipulated by someone who seemed to have an uncanny ability to control your thoughts and emotions, then keep reading. In the next sections, I'll walk you through the mind games narcissists use to manipulate and control their victims. The more you understand these tactics, the more empowered you'll become in recognizing and ultimately escaping the grip of a narcissist's mind games. Okay, welcome back. Before we dive into today's video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with anyone who's ever been in a relationship with someone who seems to have all the power, someone who constantly manipulates and gaslights them. Narcissists are experts at making you feel like you're losing your mind, and their mind games are harder to spot than you might think. But today, we're going to break down these demonic tactics and help you see through their deceit. When it comes to narcissism, one of the hardest things to understand is just how these individuals manage to control your thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. It's not about brute force. It's about subtle manipulation. Narcissists often make their victims feel like they are the ones who are crazy or too sensitive for questioning what's happening in the relationship. This is one of the most insidious aspects of narcissistic manipulation, the ability to distort reality and make you doubt your own sanity. Now, let's take a closer look at the top demonic mind games narcissists use to manipulate and control you. These techniques aren't just cruel. They are designed to break you down emotionally and mentally until you become entirely dependent on them. Ready to dive in? Let's begin. Gaslighting, the ultimate manipulation. One of the most powerful mind games narcissists use is gaslighting. This term comes from a 1944 movie called Gaslight, in which a husband manipulates his wife into questioning her sanity by making small changes to their environment, and then denying those changes, making her believe she's losing her grip on reality. The narcissist's version of gaslighting works in a very similar way. They intentionally distort the truth, deny facts, and manipulate your perception of events so that you begin to doubt your own memory, feelings, and judgments. For example, a narcissist might say something like, "I never said that," or "You're just being paranoid." Even when you know for a fact that they said something hurtful, the narcissist will persist in their denials. Over time, you start questioning yourself. Did I really hear that? Was I imagining things? This psychological manipulation makes you feel like you can't trust your own mind, and it forces you to rely on the narcissist to define your reality. It's one of the most demoralizing and emotionally destructive games a narcissist can play. What makes gaslighting so dangerous is that it is often done in small, subtle ways, making it difficult to recognize in the moment. But over time, the cumulative effect of these lies and distortions can erode your confidence, leaving you feeling like you're the problem, not them. And once the narcissist has you questioning your own perception of reality, they have total control over you. Love bombing, the sweetest poison. When you first meet a narcissist, everything might seem perfect. They shower you with compliments, tell you that you're the most amazing person they've ever met, and create an intense emotional connection that feels so real. This is called love bombing. And while it might seem like affection, it's actually a calculated manipulation tactic designed to make you feel deeply attached to them and emotionally dependent. Narcissists use love bombing to establish control early in the relationship. They give you everything you've ever wanted: admiration, attention, affection, and validation. It feels intoxicating, and you start to feel like you've met your soulmate. But as soon as they've hooked you in, and you've become emotionally invested, the love bombing stops. They suddenly pull away, become distant, or even start to criticize you. The abrupt shift in behavior leaves you feeling confused and disoriented, wondering what went wrong. This emotional whiplash keeps you hooked, as you find yourself desperately trying to get back to the honeymoon phase when they were showering you with love. This cycle of idealization and devaluation is a classic narcissistic tactic, designed to keep you off balance and dependent on them for emotional validation. The narcissist's goal is to make you feel like you can't live without them. Once they've made you feel special, unique, and indispensable, they can begin to control you more easily. Love bombing might seem harmless at first, but it's actually a dangerous game that sets the stage for future manipulation and emotional abuse. Triangulation, creating jealousy and division. Another insidious tactic narcissists often use is triangulation, the process of introducing a third person into the relationship to create jealousy, competition, and division. Narcissists thrive on creating drama and chaos, and triangulation is a perfect tool for this. They might mention an ex-partner in a way that makes you feel insecure or imply that someone else is interested in them, even though there's no